Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining this session of Data Talks. Hope you've managed to get to some of the other sessions we've held today. We've got nearly 3,000 people signed up to these sessions over the week, and I think nearly 150 so far on this call. So I hope you do find it useful and informative. My name is Richard Pulliston. I'm the Director of Policy at Essex County Council, and also the chair of our data strategy board. If we can flick on to the next one. We're going to be joined in this session by my colleague Claire McLean from ECC and also the Essex Centre for Data Analytics, and by Alison Watkin-Shanahan from the Office for National Statistics. And they'll give their perspectives on not only the importance of data literacy, but also what we can do to encourage and nurture it. And over the next 45 minutes, we're going to focus on why it's important that both you and your organisation are data literate, how we have defined data literacy and why it's important to have a definition that works for your organisation, how to easily access your own and your organisation's data literacy levels, what good data literacy looks like, and what skills and behaviours you need to embrace the era of data and analytics, and how you can easily build your own data literacy and what your organisation can do to help you. Before I hand over, if you can just move on to the next slide. Before I hand over to Claire, just flick it on one more. Thank you. Before I hand over to Claire, just a few thoughts from me. I mean, as colleagues will know, many colleagues on this call will know, public services are under very severe pressure. And in many cases, it feels like our service delivery models are no longer fit for purpose. We need to find new ways of working. And there's no question, I think, that data analytics are going to help us do that, understand citizen need in a different way, support translation into new services, anticipating, not just reacting, and helping us create a future that's sustainable and full of opportunity. Our aspirations for transforming public services, however, can't be achieved solely by the data-savvy few. A staggering 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are generated daily. I had to look this number up. So 2.5 quintillion bytes of data is 2.5 billion, which is a very large number. And this rapid rise in data is necessitating a new set of competencies from our workforce. Data proficiency is fast becoming as crucial in every role as basic computer, internet and software skills were over the last few decades. And the demand for this latest skill has surged by 40% in the last 2 years alone and will continue to further develop. Research from MIT emphasises the profound impact of data literacy on organisational productivity, with a single data literate senior decision maker leading to an 11% boost in efficiency, a figure that escalates with wider literacy adoption. Yet a recent DataCamp survey revealed that a staggering 76% of UK business leaders lack confidence in their data literacy skills. Fostering data literacy among decision makers is paramount, regardless of how sophisticated our data analytics may be or how compelling the insight produced. Ultimately, it remains the role of decision makers to understand and interpret how to act upon it. We've got a responsibility not only to ourselves and our organisations to close the widening skills gap, but also to our communities. We need to act now to build a more engaged population that's well prepared to navigate and take advantage of huge amounts of data with confidence. With that in mind, the ONS, in partnership with the BBC, has recently launched a new playground survey to improve data literacy and present statistics in a way that's clear, unambiguous and accessible to primary school children. Children are going to look at everything from the size of their playground to how pupils spend their playtimes, getting to grips with data collection and analysis in a way that's relevant to their everyday lives. A fantastic initiative. Investing in data skills is not just a strategic move, it's an essential investment in our society's future success. Our ability to thrive in an increasingly data-driven world hinges upon it. I hope you enjoyed the session. I hope you get a lot out of it. I'm going to hand over to Claire now.
Thanks, Richard. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Claire McLean. I'm Communications and Engagement Manager here within the Data Analytics team at Essex County Council, and I support colleagues with our data literacy programme. So we've just heard from Richard why cultivating data literacy is important. But for those of us that aren't data professionals, and that's likely the majority of us in this virtual room today, the concept of data literacy may feel a little abstract or overwhelming and potentially beyond our reach. So I wanted to start by putting us all at ease from the off. When we're talking about becoming data literate, we're not saying that everyone needs to become a data scientist. The godfather of data literacy, Jordan Morrow, explains it eloquently. According to Jordan, data literacy is about creating comfort and confidence in utilising data within our organisations. And it doesn't mean that everyone has to become super technical or be something that they're not, but it means that everyone is able to drive results with data. Of course, being able to drive results with data will mean different things to different organisations and workforces, depending on the results we're all trying to achieve. Many organisations say we want to be evidence driven, or being data driven is integral to everything we do. But what does that actually mean? Can you truly become a data driven organisation if there isn't a good understanding of what data can do? So a natural place to start and a necessary first step on our data literacy journeys is to ask ourselves, what does it mean to be a data driven organisation or even a data driven team? For Essex County Council, cultivating a data-driven workforce means making data everyone's business. That means ensuring that our people are empowered, that we're connected with data, its purpose and its potential, that we're aware of what's available and we're able to support robust data processes and collaborate with our partners around data. It also means that we have access to timely and relevant information and that we know how to use it responsibly to make good data-driven decisions. And ultimately, that we can act on data insights to enhance social good and improve the outcomes across our Essex communities. ECC is in good company when it comes to being clear on its reasons for building data literacy. You'll find that something all organisations that are actively pursuing data literacy have in common, whether they're big, small, public or private, is that they've all identified why being data-driven is important for them. Take Bloomberg for an example. They're also actively pursuing data literacy. The global media giant has been investing in lots of different programs, and it's very clear on its vision. Being data-driven for them is making business decisions based on actual data rather than gut feeling. It's also having proactively spotting and removing bad data and identifying areas for process efficiencies. And ultimately for them, it means using data from markets to help them create data-driven news stories. So hopefully you can see that reflecting on what it truly means to be driven by data and starting your data literacy journey with the end in mind, that provides meaning. It connects data literacy with business outcomes, and it also helps us to know where to start focusing our data literacy efforts. Choosing a definition of data literacy that applies to your organisation or your team is equally as important as having that shared vision. If you just do a quick Google search, then it'll throw up many different definitions of data literacy. However, MIT provided the most useful definition for wide-scale business application, and that's the definition that we use within Essex County Council. That is the ability to read, work with, reason and communicate with data. By reading with data, we mean that we want to look at the data and information in front of us and be able to understand it. Simple. Of course, at work, we all receive data in various formats, from survey results about how our citizens feel about services or market trend reports. And we need to be able to look at what those reports present and be able to understand what is happening or ask a question. What does that information tell me that's relevant to the decision I'm about to make? By working with data, we mean that in our role, we must be able to do something with the data available to us to achieve a result or a purpose, to dig in, engage with it and create new perspectives on the information. For example, let's say I'm working in a team that's tackling physical inactivity in communities and I receive surveys, reports. I have access to dashboards that display different types of data about crime or perceptions of community safety or use of green spaces. I need to be able to work and manipulate all of these different sources of information in order to reason or think critically about what insight it provides on possible barriers to physical activity. So by reasoning with data, we mean having the ability to discover or reveal the why through detailed examination of the data. So in my example, I'd be using the data to ask why communities are inactive, what is the impact of what we're seeing on residents, and what might happen next. One click too many. And finally, communicating with data. That means having the ability to discover that sort of message. Once you've got that aha moment, you need to have the skills and be able to get across the significance of that value and get that across to others in a way that has meaning and makes it easy for them to act upon the information. So again, to the example, I've looked at those various data sources and I've identified that in specific geographies where use of green spaces is at its lowest, community perception of crime is at its highest, and it's also exceeds the actual incidence of crime. So is it important that I can effectively communicate what I've discovered to that active Essex team before they write their community outdoor activity strategy? Absolutely, yes. So sharing insight, describing what and why something has happened, communicating predictions about what might happen next, or making business recommendations based on insight are crucial skills for the data literate. Now, I can probably guess what you're thinking right now. Which one of those 4 skills is most important, or how literate do I need to be across those 4 characteristics? You won't be surprised to hear me say that they're all important. However, if we can't first read data, then we can't begin to understand and work with it to be able to reason with it. And if we can't communicate or talk the language of data, then nothing is likely to change as a result. So developing the ability to read data enables you to develop the ability to speak the language of data and tell the right story and guide your audience to act on insight. But remember, the goal is not to transform everyone into data scientists, rather to ensure everyone can understand and use data in their roles. Currently in ECC, we have more than 9,000 employees. Data literacy is needed everywhere, but it isn't a one-size outfit for all. We need different levels of capability for the different roles that people need to perform. So we need to think of data literacy in terms of like a scale of fluency or a spectrum that ranges from the ability to make data-driven decisions to more advanced data science, data engineering. So that range begins with the data challenged, no to low skills, the data literate who can read, work, reason and communicate with data, and the data aware, those people that consistently using and driving good practice and building their experience, making data-driven decisions regularly, to the data fluent, our more advanced data science colleagues and data engineers. In ECC, we refer to that as having audiences that are resting, walking, jogging and running. But more on that later. I'm going to hand over to Alison.
Thank you, Claire. I'm Alison Watkins-Shanahan. I'm a Programme Manager within the Office for National Statistics, working in the capability team, and I currently lead on the Data Masterclass for Senior Leaders, which some of you may be aware of, and also the wider data literacy programme as well. So an important step in becoming data literate is to know where you, your team and your organisation is now. To a degree, how you assess your data literacy levels will depend upon how you've defined it. Individually, you can test your own literacy level through free available online tools, such as Data Literacy Project. For your team and organisation, it's not as easy to find an effective wide-scale approach. There are some really sophisticated assessment tools available. However, they tend to focus more on the spectrum of roles and literacy required amongst data professionals. Let's have a quick look at 2 approaches to assessing data literacy that may be of use to you. An easy approach is to survey members of your organisation, assessing knowledge, skills, behaviours, experiences and attitudes through quick self-assessment to determine levels of data literacy across our 4 characteristics. Conducting data literacy assessments using simple questions such as these enables you to identify gaps and gather a baseline before you invest in any learning and development activity. The outputs from these assessments will also likely bust some myths along the way. For example, you'll discover quite a lot of people are really interested in data analytics, and it's not boring and for nerds. And importantly, you will probably identify data advocates or early adopters, which can prove vital in creating the momentum for change. Realistically, however, we know that within our organisations, we're not going to be able to get enough people to complete various self-assessments. So we need to draw upon the experience of our colleagues in data and analytics teams working across the organisation, as well as the customers receiving the data products. Based on combination of these results from surveys and the skills and experience of data colleagues working with others in the organisation, as well as how well connected you feel with your organisation's data and business processes, you'll be able to get a feel for where you and your team are in terms of walkers, joggers and runners, or whether in fact you're still resting. Across central government professions, when it comes to assessing data skills, we have the option to use the Government Online Skills Tool, or GHOST for short, which offers a more formal and personalised approach for assessing individuals' data literacy. The tool offers users the opportunity to self-reflect against the skills required, identify skills gaps, and look at areas for development. The tool is a really great way to help managers and their teams assess capability, identify key areas of strength, and also the opportunity to be directed to relevant learning to address any identified skills gap. Users can use the information to help create their own personal development plans, and it can add weight to putting forward a business case for undertaking role-specific learning. Further benefit of a tool such as this is that it allows users to consider aspirational roles and wider development. From an organisational perspective, a tool like this provides vital data which can be used when we're shaping a learning offer, kind of like a mini learning needs analysis.
Thanks, Alison. Two very different approaches there. And within ECC, we actually use the first example to assess and understand the data literacy levels within our teams. So to recap what we've covered so far, we've understood why cultivating data literacy is important. We've defined it for our teams or organisations, and we understand what the key components of being data literate are: reading, working, reasoning and communicating with data. We have some useful tools to help us take stock of where our teams and organisations' current data literacy levels are, and to enable us to identify the gaps that we might want to focus our activities on. But before we can decide what we might do to increase data literacy, it's important to know where we need to be heading. In other words, to know what good data literacy looks like across the varied roles within our organisations, and what data skills we should possess and how we should behave given our varied interests and expertise. Now, I might make that sound easy, but that's quite a daunting task when you're considering a workforce of maybe thousands of different people. Here within Essex County Council, we approach that task using personas. There are many, many data personas widely available that you can seek inspiration from. And again, you'll need to select the ones that are right for your organisation, but they are very useful because they do enable you to segment large audiences, and then you can more easily determine how you want to sort of group different roles and different behaviours within those personas. And from that, once you know how you want people to behave, then you know what skills that they need to have to be able to act and behave in the way that you want them to. In ECC, we try to make things simple for ourselves, and we chose 5 personas to represent our more than 9,000 staff. So to achieve our data strategy, we knew that broadly speaking, we needed data literate leadership to inspire and invest in the vision. We knew that we needed a sort of group of influential roles that would enable the change that we required. And we also knew that we'd require this more nuanced literacy levels across the varied roles that would deliver and maintain our change. So for us, that was operators, data professionals and data developers. We actually have detailed profiles for each of our personas, and they set out the roles that are grouped within the persona, as well as the data literacy levels and the requirements and behaviours. But to give you one example, let's talk about our influencers. So for the roles within our influencers persona, we knew that we wanted them to be able to proactively identify mission opportunities and areas of growth involving data and analytics. We knew that we wanted them to enable teams to be able to share and collaborate with data and analytics, both internally and externally to our organisation, and to be able to demonstrate how they were actually making evidence-based decisions themselves. Roles within this group might be responsible for governing data or making key decisions and managing business processes that generate data, and therefore they're key pillars in maximising the effectiveness and quality of our data. So remaining focused on those influencers, personas for a moment and the roles within them, a key next step for us was to identify in more detail the skills and behaviours that we wanted to see. And an easy way to approach that was to identify the bad behaviours that we already experienced. It's always easy, isn't it, to start with the negatives. And if this is an approach that you choose to adopt, you may even find that it's quite a cathartic experience. I'm going to share with you the good, the bad, and some of my colleagues might say the ugly behaviours. As I'm going through this next slide, please feel free to contribute any of your own examples by starting a discussion in the Q&A. But our first bad behaviour was cherry picking data to justify a decision that's already been taken, rather than examining the data to inform what decisions should be taken. We don't want our colleagues to have a fixation on hindsight-orientated analytics and pretty pie charts. Instead, we wanted to see them looking at high-value diagnostic and predictive analytics. So good for us looks like people that are asking good questions. They're not taking data at face value. And a golden phrase that we'd be looking for here would be someone that's saying, what does the data tell us? We want our influencers to be aware of the value of data as an asset and aware of the variety of analytical techniques. Worse still, though, than someone who likes pretty pie charts is someone for whom reporting and analytics is an afterthought. Someone with a lack of common understanding of basic terms and an unwillingness to engage with data themselves. Someone who might say they need a data person. Now, that statement may well resonate with you, and I've certainly been there myself. And if that's you, that's absolutely fine, because you're on a journey and data will become something that's really engaging for you if you find your why. You'll be motivated to know what data exists and the different types of data that can help you find answers to your business problems. You'll begin to trust and understand data products, and you'll be able to self-serve. In meetings, you'll regularly refer to data and how you've used it in your area of the business. And they're all great behaviours. Give me all the data and I'll figure out what to do with it later. If that's a phrase that you've heard from colleagues, if so, that's another bad behaviour, I'm afraid. As is someone that takes data at face value and doesn't clarify or challenge assumptions and adjust the bias. Instead, what we want to see is someone who starts with a hypothesis, someone who triangulates insight and using several different data types and sources. And better still, someone who is aware of the nature of data privacy, security, ethics, bias, and risk. And finally, I don't do data. Well, that is another no-no phrase, as is communicating insight without adequate context or the necessary interrogation. It's actually really easy to identify examples of bad communication of insight, because they're the ones where you fail to get colleagues to make a decision from insight, or where we fail to use data to its full business potential. And those examples are frustrating for everyone. So instead, we want to see people with the ability to describe a business scenario or outcome, or create a business case based on data, people that are using data to make good decisions. Again, a golden behaviour here would be someone who's actively using storytelling to achieve business outcomes based on data. So those are just a few examples of the behaviours and skills that we've set out for data literacy in Essex County Council. But once we knew what our end goals were, we were then able to plan how we could practically achieve them. So as well as sharing the approach that we took in ECC over the next few slides, we're also going to hear from Alison about how ONS have played an important role in our journey and how they're enabling other data literate organisations. We'll learn about the impact that that's having within different organisations, and importantly, we're going to consider what individuals can do to invest in their own data literacy. Here in ECC, we've had a focus on data literacy for the past 3 years. And we now recognise that to achieve a data literate workforce, we will require more than just learning and development programmes. As Richard said, data literacy needs will evolve and grow in the same way that requirements for digital skills have done so, and therefore an ecosystem is required to support this. For us, that starts with having a clear vision and strategy for realising the potential of data to deliver our business goals. In ECC, we implemented a 5-year data strategy back in 2021. We were really clear about what we wanted to achieve. And we also knew that to make progress in year 1, we needed to amplify buy-in and data literacy among our most senior colleagues. Fundamental to our success to date has been the commitment from those senior colleagues to creating a culture that values data. When we began back in 2021, we did spend some time deciding where to focus our initial efforts. So in ECC, we have around 180 senior leaders across 4 levels of management. Using that assessment approach that we spoke about earlier, we mapped out where those colleagues were on their data literacy journey, which we refer to as our walkers, joggers, runners. We then looked at that map and we considered, well, what was the tipping point that we needed? How many data literate leaders would it require to accelerate our strategy from awareness to action? And we estimated that probably working with about 2/3 of our walkers and moving them to joggers would achieve the sufficient senior leadership literacy and engagement that we needed within that audience. And that insight informed our first data literacy efforts. 3 years into our journey, we now have a consistent learning and development approach and an annual events programme. But we started with a proof of concept session, and that was targeted to those most senior cohort. We did some basic evaluation, we iterated, and then we created our programme of activities from there. I'll share a little bit of detail on that in the next slide. But I did just want to mention that data camp report that we referred to earlier. So last year they published a State of Data Literacy report, and it revealed that lack of budget and inadequate training resources were the leading factors preventing organisations from investing in data literacy. We believe that both of those challenges are manageable. We've achieved great success with data literacy using in-house resources with support from ONS and by connecting into wider literacy networks. Our data advocates, enthusiasts, translators, whatever you like to call them, have also played a really key role in helping us to go the distance. It's useful to look at behaviour change theory here, actually. As well as providing people with data literacy skills, they also need the motivation and opportunity to apply them. So having an array of peers and leaders that work well with data across different service areas and teams, people that are willing to share case studies of where analytics has had impact for them or for their customers, people that are willing to provide inspiration for colleagues, demonstrate new ways of working. All of that has a motivational effect, and it tackles another key blocker to achieving data literacy, which is employee disengagement. Within ECC, we have a data strategy board, and that encourages our senior leaders to be accountable for strands of the data strategy, creating active roles for them in operational delivery, and enables them to advocate for the data culture that we want to achieve. And the final requirement, the final requirement for the ecosystem is consistent development of materials. That speaks to our earlier point about providing people with the opportunity to apply those sort of data literacy skills. So this need for iterating literacy content and aligning business processes and practices, changing ways of working. Just small changes. So in ECC, we've established multidisciplinary teams, or we've ensured that commissioners and data professionals work on projects together. And all of those are making a really big difference to having this ecosystem that supports our staff. Our approach to developing learning content with ECC has been to make insight skills and data professionals more accessible for all personas through a variety of channels. We have an internal insight portal which provides access to all of our insight products as an opportunity for colleagues to build their skills with reading and working with data. On that portal, we also have introductory learning modules on how to get started with open data or an intro to data and analytics. The frequency and format of our Insight Matters newsletter and regular share and shares also enables us to connect colleagues to our service offer and the variety of work. And it also supports them to connect their business priorities to data solutions and broader topics of data science. We try and inspire them, giving them access to things that they may not see in their day-to-day. We've tried to diversify the way we communicate our work as well and take into consideration the different audience needs. We found that show and shares or audio narrated slide packs also make content more accessible for everyone. Our formal data literacy training programme is provided by ONS through the Data Masterclass, which Alison will tell you about shortly. In the past 12 months, more than 250 colleagues from ECC alone have graduated that masterclass. And we follow each masterclass up with bespoke sessions for specific teams that participated. That enables them to identify the opportunities where they can apply data analytics in their world. We also provide sessions on how to work with analysts or how to add good questions. That enables colleagues to build their sort of critical thinking skills. Our experience with more data-aware audiences has been that they begin to demand content from us. So as their interest in literacy grow, they have asked us for things like data ethics or artificial intelligence. And we're currently developing a fast-track learning pathway for managers, as well as something to support continuous improvement around good data management. For the data fluent personas, our offer includes formal training on more technical skills and tools. We facilitate learning through a county-wide community of practice. And if you've heard of the Living Library concept, then you'll already know how useful that is. We access one through a central government initiative that enables us to check out the experts that have signed up to it and hear how they're developing and delivering work. And we also participate in several national communities of practice, also facilitated by ONS. Speaking of ONS, I'll hand you back over to Alison.
Thanks, Claire. So the Data Masterclass for Senior Leaders is a course which was designed to help senior leaders across UK government, the public sector and devolved administrations put data and evidence at the heart of their organisations. The Masterclass ensures that organisations have leaders who understand the importance of using data and using it well, but also understanding the pitfalls. It ensures leaders are data literate and have a level of awareness to enable data culture and support analytical teams. It does this by supporting you to understand what value you can get from data, what good evidence looks like, and how to work with data professionals, know how to read, work with, communicate, and interpret and use data for effective evidence-based decision making. It helps you be aware of the risks, limitations, and ethical considerations for using data, and it helps you to recognise the growing role and importance of analytics and data science, and what types of business problems it can help you solve. The content is built around 3 themes. The first is data-driven decision making. This helps you to understand why data matters in government, how it is critical in the diverse range of scenarios, and what happens when we get it wrong. By exploring some of the practical considerations of data, you can hear invaluable insights from senior leaders and analysts on how they work together to put data at the heart of their decision making. Also, communicating and working with data. This helps you understand how to get to the bottom of the numbers behind the headlines, really assess the accuracy of claims and how to demonstrate trustworthiness in your communications. And you can learn from others on why appropriate use and format of data in communication is critical to convey a message with clarity and to help you build that trust. Third concept is data science and new frontiers. So you can hear about how you can harness the power of data science techniques, how you can spot good opportunities to apply a data science technique to solve real challenges, and how you can be an effective leader when it comes to fostering data science projects within your department, learning from public and private sector companies at the cutting edge of applied analytics. The ONS Data Masterclass has had over 13,000 learners from across 40 central government and public sector organisations. Feedback from learners is that they find the content engaging. It features speakers such as Hannah Fry and a variety of different formats. So not just keynote speakers, but case studies, quizzes, and it's a very engaging format with a mixed content. It's intensive. It's focused content targeted to build 4 data literacy skills and is designed by learning experts from the Data Science campus. And it's targeted. The content can be tailored to organisations, which is something that Essex Centre for Data Analytics has included by embedding the material with your own case studies and information which is specific to Essex, so not just central government focused. In addition, organisations that adopt the Masterclass like the fact that it's flexible for learners, it's available online, you can access it via an app, and it can be accessed according to your learner's schedule. It's scalable. It's easy to roll out to larger cohort sizes, and learners are supported through a forum where participants can interact with each other, data experts supporting them, and learner progress can be monitored. More than 400 colleagues in Essex have graduated the Masterclass in the last 12 months, with 84% agreeing or strongly agreeing that as a result of the masterclass, they felt confident about using data in their day-to-day role. The central government, harnessing the power of digital and data, is one of our 5 reform missions. That's why 2023 saw the launch of One Big Thing, with all civil servants being called upon to undertake a day's worth of data training over a 3-month period. A central e-learning project was created at 3 levels: awareness, working and practitioner, as well as a central catalogue of existing training and resources. In addition to this, departments also hosted live events and roadshows, and line manager discussions were held to help encourage and identify how as teams we can increase and improve our use of data. Over 40% of civil service took part, recording 700,000 learning hours, helping to put data upskilling at the forefront of not just senior leaders' agendas, but all colleagues. One Big Thing demonstrates the commitment to literacy, and the investment has been worthwhile, not just for civil service, but across local government organisations, which are starting to report the difference that increased data literacy is making to data-driven decisions within their organisations. But don't just take my word for it. As you can see on the slide, there are some quotes from colleagues in Essex County Council, the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, and National Security, articulating some of the action that they are now taking. Investing in comprehensive data literacy programme yields substantial benefits for organisations, not only increasing the number of data-driven decisions that are made, but also significantly enhancing the speed and quality of decision-making. In fact, research shows that organisations that invest in organisational-wide data literacy are more than twice as likely to report transformational outcomes. Put your trainers on. We've talked a lot about organisational approaches to investing in data literacy. People often ask, where does the responsibility to build data literacy sit within an organisation? Is it with Chief Data Officer and data teams? We don't all have them. Or is it with HR or organisational development teams, who often have competing priorities? The answer to this will depend on your organisation, structure and resources. And the reality might be that you don't yet have any organisation ownership of data literacy. But the good news is we don't need to rely on formal structures to improve our ability to read, work, reason and communicate with data. There is a place for every one of us in the world of data and analytics. And there are so many readily available resources that you can begin to explore, no matter whether your organisation has the foundations in place or resources available. You can personally begin your journey today, whether you're resting and consider yourself data challenged, you're walking, jogging, or running towards data fluency. Here are some suggestions for things that you can do to build your literacy. If you're at the beginning of your journey, start by cultivating your own interest and begin to familiarise yourself with what data and outputs exist in your team or organisation. Join a community of interest. Meet with data people within your organisation. How about reading some case studies, data essentials, data dictionaries, and familiarise yourself with basic terms? While you're doing this, you could ask yourself, what is it that I want to achieve with data literacy? What do I want to do with data and analytics, and why? Find your why, and it will make it much more relatable. To become data literate, seek out training and learning and development opportunities outside of your organisation. Look to the likes of ONS, ODI and other organisations to access materials. Ask questions of the data products available to you and develop critical thinking and skills to reason with data. Explore tools that provide access to and enable you to manipulate data. Websites such as the Essex Open Data are a great resource for getting to grips with a variety of data outputs. To become data aware, nurture your skills by practicing them. Nurture your team and organisation's data culture by changing how you work. Stay curious. Feed your curiosity and engage curiosity in others. Challenge yourself to meet good practice standards. Go beyond the basics and look to increase your knowledge of data ethics and information governance. Join a community of practice is a good way of finding out what's available and what other people are doing. Inspire others. Be a role model and advocate for data-driven behaviours within your team and organisation. And if you're already data fluent, consider what skills you can develop beyond technical skills. How can you become more creative? What applications of data and analytics might you use to engage with the walkers and joggers? And how can you communicate your data output in a way that has more meaning and impact for your audience? And importantly, what role can you play as a data champion to maximise data literacy? For the data fluent, there are lots of communities of practice in existence that you may well benefit from to connect with your peers and seek inspiration. No matter whether you're an individual or an organisation, investing in data literacy, your plans for building data literacy should include defining what it means for you, your team and your organisation, assessing where you are now and where you want to go, learning and evaluating change, and iterating. So define, assess, learn, evaluate, and iterate. We hope that what we've shared with you today provides you with a blueprint that will help you make a start with data literacy or will inspire you to keep going.
Thank you, everyone. We'd love to hear your feedback about this session. So please do take a moment to fill in the evaluation form. I'll stop sharing, and I think we've got time for some questions if there are any.
Claire, I think there were some questions posted into the Q&A section, so I don't know whether you want to take those.
Yeah, I'll take a look. Well, first one for Alison. How can everyone enrol for the ONS Masterclass?
I will pop my details into the chat. You can contact me directly and I'll be able to set up a chat with you.
Alison, another one for you. Is the government online skills tool available for people to access?
So at the moment, it's only available to central civil service colleagues, but it is hosted by an external contractor. And again, I can give you details of the contractor that we currently use. We don't just use it for data literacy, we use it for quite a lot of profession-specific training as well, if anyone's interested in that.
Yeah, another question from Sophie saying that it looks good, and how many people have sort of invested their time in developing this programme. So I would say a few of us. So in this data literacy programme for ECC, it's myself, Stephen Simpkin, that you may have seen delivering a couple of sessions today, and a few other colleagues in the data analytics team. So certainly not a massive team of people developing all of the materials, a few of us, and as I say, really connecting into networks. So as well as connecting into the masterclass programme, there are a couple of data literacy communities of sort of practice or communities of interest that we connect into, where we're able to support each other and access each other's materials. So again, a great resource for sharing, learning, and sort of adopting and adapting what each other has got available. There's some specific ECC questions about looking at how we've been developing literacy across the teams. Yes, absolutely. We can come back to you on that, Ruth, which we can do offline. I think that's it. If there's no more questions, we'll give everyone a couple of minutes. Scroll back to the top. Is there a cost for the masterclass? Alison, another question?
No, the masterclass is currently free. It just means you have to sign up to one of my various data literacy working groups or communities of practice. It's not compulsory, but I will badge you.
We will share the meeting recordings and the slides with everyone afterwards, and that will have both mine and Alison's contact details in as well. So that'll be an easy way to reach out and connect into the masterclass. We can't recommend it enough. It's been brilliant. We really have seen such a massive benefit from giving it a real focus here in ECC. And someone that is keen to develop a living library and they like to speak about how they proceed with that. So yeah, again, I'm happy to pick that up with you offline. As I said, the one that we access is a central government initiative. And again, you can put forward people from your own organisations. You can then have a look and see which different experts are available to speak on what different topics. And then, as I say, you can check them out. Or as we've done, invited them to speak to us at team meetings or communities of practice, and they speak about their relevant skills or areas of expertise. Again, just a great way of sharing learning between organisations as well. And someone that's missed your details, Alison, so we'll stick those again in the Q&A. And as I said, we'll make sure that we follow up with all of you that have been on the call today and make sure that we connect you into the resources that are available. And some of them we'll be sharing on our Insight portal for people to use afterwards. So I think that probably brings us to an end. I'll give you 10 minutes back. Thanks, everyone. And yeah, please do feel free to contact us after today. We hope to see you at another Data Talks event over the next 2 days. There are another 11 sessions to go tomorrow and Wednesday. So if there's something else that takes your fancy, please do book in. Thanks very much.